am on the other side of this. Like, we've been divorcing now through this process for a whole year. And, you know, it's caught up with what I had to do.
Right.
So, like, emotionally, I feel like I'm ready to be done with it. I'm ready to heal, ready to move on. But, you know, here comes a reality show. So here's the part of my life where it gets interesting. I'm done with the divorce, but I had to deal with it, all the darkness on camera.
So y'all, it looks like Porsha Williams might be facing one of the toughest moments of her life. The luxury mansion that once symbolized her fairy tale love story with Simon Gobadia is now the center of a financial storm that's threatening to knock everything down. What started as a dream home, full of marble floors and million-dollar energy, has turned into a nightmare she can't seem to escape. Because now, word is, the bank just slammed the door shut in her face and Porsha has officially lost the house. Yes, you heard that right.
Divorcing now through this process for a whole year. And, you know, it's caught up with what I had to do.
Right.
So, like, emotionally, I feel like I'm ready to be done with it. I'm ready to heal, ready to move on.
The same house that had everyone talking, the same mansion where she threw lavish parties and posted glamorous selfies, is slipping right through her fingers. And the reason? Her credit, or rather, the lack of it. The bank reportedly rejected her loan application, leaving her with no way to save the property. But before we drag Porsha for living beyond her means, let's talk about how this whole situation even started. Because this didn't just happen overnight. There's a deeper story behind those mansion walls, one that involves love, betrayal, and a financial agreement that's now haunting her. When Porsha first met Simon Gobadia, everything looked like a whirlwind fairy tale.
To record in the house?
Yes. So I did.
But it was your house.
Yes, our house. So, I mean, I know he's explained it 1,000 different ways online. He has documented our entire divorce on the Simon Show online, and then I have the Housewives, I suppose. But yeah, there is paperwork in place that would make it a marital property 50-50 split. Outside of that being enforced, it is a premarital property or whatever.
She was fresh off her Real Housewives of Atlanta fame, living her best life, and suddenly she popped out with this new romance that had everyone's eyebrows raised. Let's not forget Simon was still married to her castmate, Fallon, when that announcement dropped. The internet went wild. Fans were divided, bloggers were in overdrive, and social media couldn't stop talking. But Porsha didn't seem to care. She said love doesn't follow a timeline and that Simon was her soulmate. Within months, they were engaged, and soon after, married in a series of extravagant weddings that looked straight out of a royal fantasy. There were diamonds, Nigerian traditions, custom gowns, and gold dripping from every corner of the decor. It was the kind of love story that made people either jealous or suspicious. And while fans were busy arguing online, Simon was setting up the foundation of their new life, starting with that $7 million mansion in Duluth, Georgia.
Just because you're going through a divorce doesn't mean you hate someone. I hate actions, I hate lies, I hate a lot of characteristics, but I love the person, you know, and I would never wish harm on anybody. And at the end of the day, I know that he's the type of person, he's a slithering snake. He's gonna find his way out of it, I'm sure he'll be fine.
That house was massive. Gated, glamorous, and built for luxury living. It had everything: a pool, a theater room, a spa bathroom, and views that screamed money. But behind the fairy lights and Instagram filters, there was something people missed: the fine print. When Simon put Porsha in that mansion, he didn't put her on the mortgage. He only added her name to the deed. That meant she could live there, but she wasn't responsible for the actual payments. And at that time, according to court documents, Porsha didn't have steady income. She wasn't working full-time on any show, and her brand deals weren't enough to cover that kind of monthly cost. So, Simon gave her a deal: 36 months of free living. For 3 years, he covered everything. The mortgage, utilities, maintenance, and even the landscaping.
About me and my fans do respect, I'm transparent. So even though it didn't turn out the story that I wanted to share, I still was open with what I had.
It was basically his way of giving her time to get her financial life together. And for a while, it seemed like the perfect setup. But here's where the story takes a turn. Those 36 months came with a condition: once that time was up, Porsha had to refinance the house in her own name. Meaning, she'd have to take over the mortgage herself and prove to the bank she could handle it. And y'all, that's where everything started falling apart. Fast forward to now, the grace period is up, and the bank has officially said no. According to reports, when Porsha tried to refinance, her credit score didn't meet the requirements. The loan officers looked at her financial history and basically said, "We can't take that risk." And look, we're not talking about a regular home loan here. This mansion's mortgage runs somewhere between $20,000 to $50,000 a month, depending on who you ask. Even Simon testified in court that it cost around $50K monthly just to maintain the place. That's not including taxes, insurance, or the endless upkeep that comes with luxury living. So when Porsha walked into the bank thinking she could transfer the mortgage, they reportedly shut it down immediately. Word is, her credit score wasn't high enough, and without consistent income or a solid financial portfolio, there was nothing to convince the lenders. And let's be real, banks don't care about fame. You can be a TV star with millions of followers, but if your numbers don't line up, they're not approving you for a multi-million-dollar mortgage. They want to see income, debt history, and a stable financial track record. And from what's being reported, Porsha's didn't look too good. Now, Simon? He's already washed his hands of the situation. He told the court he's done paying anything tied to that house. No more mortgage checks, no more utilities, nothing. His exact words to the judge were basically, "She's responsible now." And just like that, the free ride ended. But what really makes this story sting is how public it's become. Court documents and reports are painting a picture that's hard for Porsha to escape. She was supposed to use those 3 years to rebuild her finances, improve her credit, and show she could handle life independently. But instead, it seems like time ran out before she could truly get back on her feet. And now, she's facing foreclosure rumors. Insiders say she's stressed beyond belief walking around her mansion trying to figure out her next move. The lights are still on, but the financial pressure is getting heavier each day. Some sources even claim she's been in tears, calling her teen non-stop, asking for help or new opportunities that could bring in quick money. Because at this point, her choices are limited. She can either sell the house, which might be difficult considering the current housing market, or risk losing it altogether if the bank moves forward with foreclosure. But here's the twist. Some people close to her claim that Porsha never thought she'd actually have to refinance. She assumed Simon would always have her back, at least financially. They say she never expected the marriage to crash this fast, or that Simon would pull his support so suddenly. Remember, their relationship went from engagement to divorce in less than 2 years. So she probably thought she had more time. Unfortunately, love and money don't always mix well. Once the marriage ended, the financial cushion disappeared, and now Porsha's standing in the middle of that reality alone. And this whole situation gets even more complicated when you think about her public image. Porsha has always been that girl who bounced back. She's been through drama before, from her messy divorce with Cordell Stewart to her on-screen fights with RHOA castmates, and somehow, she always managed to land on her feet. But this time feels different. Because this isn't about reputation or social media beef. This is about real-life consequences. If she loses this house, it's not just another headline, it's her home, her peace, and her proof that she made it after everything she's been through. And fans are already split. Some say this is karma for how her relationship with Simon started, while others believe she's just caught in a situation that spiraled out of control. Let's be honest, not everyone knows how to navigate the financial side of fame. You can go from reality TV checks to brand deals, but if you don't have solid financial planning, one big expense can throw everything off. And that's the trap so many celebrities fall into, trying to maintain a lifestyle that's no longer supported by their income. Now, people online are debating whether Porsha will try to sell the mansion before it's too late. But that's another problem. Selling a luxury property that's tied up in legal and financial mess isn't easy. Buyers tend to stay away from drama. They don't want to inherit someone else's stress. And let's be real, when people find out you're selling because you have to, not because you want to, they come with lowball offers. They'll try to snatch the property for half the price just because they know you're desperate. So even if she lists it, there's no guarantee she'll walk away with much. especially after the bank, taxes, and legal fees get their cut. Now, remember when Porsha told the court she helped Simon with his child support payments? That was a bold claim, but she didn't provide any proof, no receipts, no statements, nothing. And that didn't sit well with the court. Because in legal terms, you can't just say something happened, you have to prove it. That part of the story made people question her financial stability even more. How could she afford to pay someone else's child support if she couldn't even cover her own mortgage now? It painted a confusing picture, and honestly, it might have weakened her credibility in court. Some folks think that was her way of trying to show she wasn't just depending on Simon, but the lack of evidence made it backfire. And now, she's the one who looks unprepared. But here's what really hurts: the emotional side of all this. Because behind the headlines and gossip, Porsha is still a mother. She has a young daughter to care for, and the thought of uprooting her from that beautiful home must be heartbreaking. Sources close to her say she's been keeping it together for her child, trying not to show the stress, but those closest to her can tell she's breaking down inside. The mansion that once represented stability and new beginnings is now a reminder of everything that went wrong: the love that faded, the trust that broke, and the lifestyle that's slipping away. And even though she's always been known for her confidence, it's clear this situation has shaken her. Losing a home, especially one so tied to your identity and image, isn't easy. It's not just about walls and furniture. It's about pride, legacy, and the feeling of security. For Porsha, this house was supposed to mark a new chapter, her fresh start after years of heartbreak and public scrutiny. Instead, it's become another chapter of pain and lessons learned the hard way. Now, as she faces this storm, one thing's for sure: she's being tested in ways she probably never imagined. Whether she sells the house, gets evicted, or somehow manages to pull off a miracle, this moment will define what comes next for her. Some fans are already predicting she'll turn this setback into a comeback story. That maybe she'll get back on TV, launch new ventures, and tell her truth from her perspective. And honestly, knowing Porsha, that might just happen. She's always been a survivor, even when people counted her out. But right now, reality is hitting hard. The mansion is no longer hers, the bank has closed its doors, and she's left standing in the aftermath of decisions made during love's high tide. And while it's easy to judge from the outside, the truth is sometimes people lose themselves trying to keep up an image. Sometimes the fairy tale ends, and what's left is just the lesson. So maybe this isn't the end of Porsha Williams, maybe it's just a reset. A painful one, yes, but maybe a necessary one. Maybe this chapter will push her to rebuild, to focus on stability instead of appearances, and to prove that her worth isn't tied to a mansion or a man's money. Because if there's one thing we've learned from Porsha over the years, it's that she doesn't stay down for long. She might be hurting right now, but she's also resilient. And while the bank may have rejected her, life might just be redirecting her to something bigger. Still, it's hard not to feel for her. To go from luxury to loss, from fairy tale wife to foreclosure rumors, that's a fall no one prepares for. And as she figures out her next move, one thing's clear this time: there's no Simon to bail her out. Just Porsha, her daughter, and a hard reality staring her in the face. And maybe, just maybe, this will be the moment that forces her to rise again, not as someone's wife, not as a reality star, but as a woman who learned to rebuild after losing it all. Because sometimes, the most beautiful comebacks are born from the hardest falls. Some fans are already predicting she'll turn this setback into a comeback story. That maybe she'll get back on TV, launch new ventures, and tell her truth from her perspective. And honestly, knowing Porsha, that might just happen. She's always been a survivor, even when people counted her out. But right now, reality is hitting hard. The mansion is no longer hers, the bank has closed its doors, and she's left standing in the aftermath of decisions made during love's high tide. And while it's easy to judge from the outside, the truth is sometimes people lose themselves trying to keep up an image. Sometimes the fairy tale ends, and what's left is just the lesson. So maybe this isn't the end of Porsha Williams, maybe it's just a reset. A painful one, yes, but maybe a necessary one. Maybe this chapter will push her to rebuild, to focus on stability instead of appearances, and to prove that her worth isn't tied to a mansion or a man's money. Because if there's one thing we've learned from Porsha over the years, it's that she doesn't stay down for long. She might be hurting right now, but she's also resilient. And while the bank may have rejected her, life might just be redirecting her to something bigger. Still, it's hard not to feel for her. To go from luxury to loss, from fairy tale wife to foreclosure rumors, that's a fall no one prepares for. And as she figures out her next move, one thing's clear this time: there's no Simon to bail her out. Just Porsha, her daughter, and a hard reality staring her in the face. And maybe, just maybe, this will be the moment that forces her to rise again, not as someone's wife, not as a reality star, but as a woman who learned to rebuild after losing it all. Because sometimes, the most beautiful comebacks are born from the hardest falls.